Hello, my name is Mariana del Hierro, and I'm running for DPS School Board District 2. I'm a DPS mom and community leader, and I have seen firsthand our teachers pour their hearts into each classroom, but I've also seen the impacts of overcrowded classrooms and teachers not having the opportunity to be able to provide students with the individual attention that they deserve. I'm a Southwest Denver community leader, and I bring with me a track record of developing proven programs that support our community. I'm running because I want to improve the Latinx student achievement gaps that we see at DPS. For a school system in which the majority of the students are Latinx students, I think it's unacceptable that we continue to see persistent Latinx student achievement gaps in our DPS school system. I'm running because I want to bring more transparency and community voice into decisions at the board. I'm running because I want to decrease class sizes so students get the attention that they deserve to support their achievement. And I'm running to continue to close the Latinx student achievement gap at DPS.
What are the top needs of the school district? How are Denver Public Schools doing educating kids across the city? What is going well and what is not going well?
The top needs of the district for me are an increased transparency in the decision making at the school board level, as well as incorporating more community voice so that we are directly serving the communities and the families that attend our DPS system. I want to decrease classroom sizes because I want to provide teachers with the resources and the space that they need to be able to deliver the education that our students deserve, and also to support achievement for our students in smaller class sizes. And I want to remove the Latinx student achievement gap at DPS with recent CMAS test scores that show the persistent gap for Latinx students. I want to work towards improving that for the Latinx students that make up the majority of DPS. What's going well is that we have a group of educators, teachers, administrators at DPS who continue to feel passionate about the work that they do, and families that still believe in DPS. And then what is not going well? Apologize. What is not going well is the lack of transparency for our families and for our community with the decisions that are being made, and the under-resourced that our teachers are facing right now.
This next question was submitted by a DPS student. In light of the recent Evergreen school shootings, how will you protect students from acts of gun violence? What measures or plans will you put in place?
So for me, safety isn't just about cameras and locked doors. It's about whether or not students feel safe. I believe in increasing the safety protocols that we have in schools, but I know that that's not enough. We need to make sure that we create a holistic approach that's not about reaction, it's also about prevention. And so we also need to take a look at increasing the amount of mental health support and staff that are able to do that, and supporting our teachers who already have a full plate with educating our students, as well as attending to the safety needs of our students. So increasing safety protocols, increasing the amount of mental health resources, as well as counselors and staff at our schools, but also knowing that in Southwest Denver District 2, safety also means safety from ICE raids. The communities that make up Southwest Denver are the communities that have the highest activity for ICE, and so making sure that we have those safety protocols to prevent gun violence, but also creating protocols and practices that also make sure that students feel safe getting to school and being at school.
Can you explain where the money to fund our schools comes from? And what changes, if any, are needed to ensure that the district has the money it needs to deliver quality educational opportunities to all students?
Most of DPS's funding comes from the state, with additional funding coming from the federal level and then local property taxes. The difficulty with DPS, most specifically with Southwest Denver, is the equitable distribution of that funding that will arrive to our classrooms, most especially for our Latinx students who are experiencing the highest achievement gap. And so for me, as someone who runs a multi-million-dollar budget for a nonprofit, my practice is typically show me your budget and I will show you what you value. And so when looking at the DPS budget, I will look at, are the dollars reaching the students that need them most? So is the funding being distributed equitably for students that really need to be able to be supported in order to achieve, to reach their achievement goals when it comes to Latinx students and the achievement gap that exists there? Are we investing in proven strategies like smaller class sizes, mental health, and educator pay, as well as cutting inefficiencies and renegotiating contracts? And how are we being creative with our funding by bringing in community partners? What I have heard a lot in my conversations with educators and parents is, how can we partner more with local nonprofits to be able to bring community into the schools while at the same time being able to save money by bringing in that outside programming through partnerships?
What K through 12 personal experience most impacts your views on education, and is it relevant today?
The K-12 experience for me that most impacts my view of education, it's my personal story. I don't get emotional about this, but I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And for me, I'm a child of immigrants. I'm the daughter of a single mom that worked the night shifts and graveyard shifts at a factory. And it is that knowing that my experience is so reflective of the experience of our students in Southwest Denver, who are also the kids of immigrants, who are also in families in which education plays such a big part in having the opportunity to create a better life for yourself and a better life for future generations. And I feel it's just so, it's still so relevant, because I feel that my experience being the child of immigrants and knowing that the impact that an education can have on the trajectory of your life and how that changes you personally, as well as your family, your community, and your next generations, that's something that is very relevant to the students of Southwest Denver. And that's something that I want to fight for, because I know that for me, being the first person in my family to get an education, that is the exception to the rule. And I believe that that should be the rule across all of DPS.
How do you see the role of charter and innovation schools in the DPS system? How should the board ensure that all schools, regardless of governance model, offer high quality and equitable opportunities?
For me, when I first considered running for the DPS school board, and when I formally announced that I was running for the DPS school board, I made it very clear to the folks that were on my team, to community members, and to families, that while I appreciate the ideological conversations that happen between traditional and charter and innovation schools, I see it at this other level of the conversations that families are having. While it's important to have a conversation about the differences between charter, innovation, and traditional schools, I focus my conversations on what families are talking about. And what I've heard from families are, we just want to be able to send our child, to a school in which they will be most successful and where they will be seen and supported and challenged to reach their full potential. And so for me, I appreciate the conversation, but I really focus on the conversation that families are having. And their conversations are, what school will best support my child? Now, when it comes to how will the board ensure that all schools offer high quality and equitable opportunities, that for me is, every school should be held to the highest standard, whether they are traditional, charter, or an innovation school. All schools should be held to that same level of accountability to provide the highest level of education for all students.
Your website states, it's time to wake up the sleeping giant that is Southwest Denver. What is the sleeping giant, and why is it important to students in Southwest Denver, and how will you do that?
So for me, I work I live and work in Southwest Denver, specifically in the Westwood community, where it is known to be the youngest community in all of Denver with the highest percentage of residents under 18. I have the great joy and honor to work every day in community, and through our youth programming at our nonprofit, I get to interact with youth every day, and I get to see the amazing expertise and hope and joy that all of these kids have every day. And at the same time, I live in a city where I often hear leaders in the city say, we import our talent. And that honestly makes my skin crawl, because that is a deliberate choice. We don't need to import our talent. What we need to do is invest in the youth of our city so that they can lead our city, so that they can also participate in the economic growth of this city, and so that they can be the leaders of this city for tomorrow. And so that's what I mean in terms of the sleeping giant, because we have such a wealth of beauty, expertise, and hope. We just need to make the decision to invest in it. This campaign is about the future of our children and the strength of our community. I'm running because I believe DPS can and should do better, not just for some students, but for all, and most especially in Southwest Denver for our Latinx students. We can't afford leadership that makes decisions in secret and ignores families and lets achievement gaps persist. I bring with me a unique blend of experience in public health, in local leadership, and in integrating community voice in decision making and program development. I bring both lived experience and professional experience in leading organizations, managing budgets, and building partnerships that deliver real results. But most especially, I'm a mom. And I'm a mom to a DPS student. And I get to interact with the DPS system and the amazing teachers that make up this system every day. And I want to work to be able to support our educators, to be able to close the achievement gaps that we see in our DPS system. I want to learn how we can close those achievement gaps, distribute our resources equitably, and build a system that truly benefits all students. On November 4th, I'm asking you for your vote so we can build a DPS that truly reflects our values, that listens to our families, and ensures that every student, no matter their background, has the opportunity to thrive.